And welcome to another exciting edition of Chocobo Chasers. I'm G, and as always, I am joined by the Chocobros, Eric and Dash. Today, we're also joined by a very special guest, voice actor and streamer Jay Britton. Jay, it's awesome to have you. When he's not,
That's what
oh,
I've ruined
ahead.
it. I've
No,
ruined
you,
it.
you didn't at all. When he's not streaming as an official Twitch partner, you can also listen and hear Jay lend his voice to characters in so many games that we know and love, from Horizon Forbidden West to Elite Dangerous to Divinity Original Sin 2, and so much more. Like, that's literally just the tip of the iceberg. So Jay, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's so awesome to have you.
Pleasure. This is what happens when you don't give a voice actor a script. They're like, is there a chance for me to talk? Okay, I'm going to use this. But no, like, as we were just saying, thank you for having me on, because any day when I get to come and talk about voice acting or streaming or tech or games is a happy day for me. So you're going to regret letting me talk by the end of this.
Oh,
We're gonna love
assure you that we won't. Dash, why don't you go ahead and get us kicked off, man?
So on your YouTube channel, I see that you have a narration of the Pale Blood Hunt, Bloodborne analysis, which is actually something we've talked about in a previous episode when we were talking about great video game worlds and world building. And so we're big Bloodborne fans here. And with you being a gamer, I'm assuming you're also a big fan of this series, so you can appreciate the amount of depth that this world has. And that's like my favorite essay. I've read like all 109 pages of that like years back, and it really was a great thing. So I'm assuming that's one of your favorite games also.
Yes. Yeah. 1,000%. I think, in fact, I think it's the big, that one there. It's obviously out of focus, but I got the Pale Blood Hunt by the Fantastic Redgrave printed, because I was like, I want a full copy of this. And hang on, I always have to do this when anyone lets me.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Wow.
So am I a fan of Bloodborne? I mean, you dabble.
You dabble, you can say.
Just a little bit, yeah. No, Bloodborne 100% is one of my favorite games. I mean, I'm a massive fan of the Souls series from start to finish. I still remember the day my friend bought me around the DS1 for the Xbox 360, I think it would have been. And I was like, I got halfway through the opening castle area, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this game doing to me? Why am I so useless and powerless? I hate this. And that started, the next 1,000-hour obsession with the Soulsborne world. But yeah, Bloodborne's a very special one for me, because I actually dipped out of it. I got to like the Forbidden Woods the first time I played it, and then I was like, do you know what? This isn't doing it for me. So I actually dropped it, and then years later went back, because I was like, it's the only one I haven't finished. I've done all the others. I've done all the DLC. It's the only one I've not done. So let's do it again. And I actually listened to a lore video by Vati.
Oh yeah, he's always
I'm just maybe. I was like, I'm going to listen to some of the lore first, and then I'm going to go and play the game. And that's it. The second I got into the lore of the world of Bloodborne, I was gone, man. And then like, I've platinumed it. I've done every ending. I've done a deathless run with all the DLC. I've done a BL4 run. And then I was like, I can't draw for shit. I can't paint. I can't do game dev. But voice acting is, in theory, the one thing I can do. So let me record this Pale Blood Hunt as kind of like my little love letter to the universe, because it's such an amazing place. And it got through a big period of depression, just kind of grinding Bloodborne and sitting in it for hours in that horrible, gray, macabre world of death was somehow less depressing. And I was like, yeah, this will do. I'll sit in this for a couple of 100 hours instead. So yeah, adore Bloodborne, one of my all-time favorite games, and I could talk about it for the next half an hour if you'd let me. Yeah.
We would sure love that. But let's say if Bloodborne 2 were ever to happen, it's safe to say you would probably be the first in line to get a role in that if you could.
I was thinking about this, in terms of like franchises that I would love to be in, and any Souls one, like I don't just, even if I'm skeleton on the floor who just gets to go, and that's it. I don't care. I just any part of any ability for me to put just a little segment of myself somewhere in a Souls universe. Yeah, I would bite anybody's arm off for, you know, an opportunity to audition for a Souls game, no matter what it was. But whether or not it might be Bloodborne 2, I don't know. I'm like, oh, Bloodborne's so perfect. As much as I'd love a Bloodborne 2, it's that difficult second album, and you're like, oh.
See, and that's always what I always talk about. I'm just like, even if a sequel sucks, it doesn't tarnish the original, in my opinion. It's just, you know, you can ignore it if it sucks and just stay with the original. But I kind of want more of this universe because I really enjoyed that lore, like we talk about, and just seeing what they could do beyond it would be
100%.
You know, and then, you know, From Software is just great with that kind of world design and building. I just love any game from them.
Yeah, I actually, there was a podcast I was on years back that was all about level design, and I kind of spoke specifically about the way Souls do their level design, because I find it so fascinating with the way the mechanics of it is very much baked into the way it makes you feel, of that constant push-pull of the risk of exploration versus the reward. Like, if I just go 10 more minutes, I might hit a lantern or a fireplace, a bonfire. Whereas if I go 10 more minutes, I might die and lose these 3 million souls I'm carrying. And it's all the way the levels, like, everything's paced out to just the nth degree to give you that constant push-pull. Like, they're a wonder. And they do one of my favorite things when it comes to storytelling, which is, I'm not a big fan of exposition for exposition's sake. Like, if you give a bunch of dialogue to an actor, which is just basically them regurgitating what the story is, I'm like, stop expositing at me. Whereas the Souls worlds, they're like, we don't care. You figure it out. Here's half a scroll on the floor next to this dead guy. You figure it out. We're not going to tell you anything.
Sprinkle all the breadcrumbs around and let someone write the essay for them.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. Yeah, very much.
Eric, you want to go ahead and follow that up, man?
So looking at your credits, you have a very diverse career between voiceover for pretty big broadcasting channels like the History Channel. You did voiceover for Marvel, even Amazon. How'd you cross into voiceover work when you first kind of got into acting?
Oh, God. So I'm a really weird one. I went from IT. This is kind of what I love about voice acting as well. Is everyone's got a different way that they came in. You know, you guys have just spoken to the wonderful Amelia Tyler, who was like doing it since she was 5. I'm 38 now, old enough to start forgetting how old I am. 38 now, and I've been doing VO for about 14 years, part-time, full-time. But I came into it from IT, and I was very much, I'd done 13 years as a network architect for IT, and I was like, my soul is dead inside. I really need to go and follow voice acting, which was my passion since a kid. I was the guy impersonating all the characters from The Simpsons and doing the silly voices at school. And so I kind of went into it that way. And the thing is, really, for most actors who work solely in voice, corporate work is our bread and butter. Like animation and video games are fantastic, and they are certainly the more performative sides of acting and voice acting, but they're fiercely competitive, and only so many games get made a year. So if you want to earn a living doing just voice work, and you don't branch out and do stage and TV in the same way, you're going to do a lot of corporate stuff as well. So when I came into it, it was a simple case of, I got some really bad demo reels made. So bad. In fact, I think I still have them around, and they're just so bad. And I went out onto pay-to-play websites, and at that point was just sort of auditioning for whatever came in, whether it was a corporate for Amazon, or I think Fox Technologies was my first ever voiceover, just some weird IT company in the States. And then slowly sort of, you just keep auditioning and auditioning, and eventually things start to come up that are game projects. And I went into it that way. But games and animation were always something that I want to work on those, because I'm, as you might have guessed, I'm a gaming nerd and have been since I was old enough to hold a controller or whatever. So yeah, I kind of just went into it doing whatever work came up. And thankfully, eventually, it was game work and animation.
So following Eric's question, your acting in video games is also pretty unique compared to a lot of others because you've had the opportunity to work on games that are in variations of size. You'll see titles from some of the biggest in the world, like a Horizon Forbidden West, and then some that are more smaller, like more intimate indie style games. There's obviously pros and cons to both, but it as well, just like you mentioned, like it's a career. We've talked with a bunch of different actors, and they've all mentioned that, you know, you're not necessarily in a position to say no. You kind of just you take what's coming to you. But I just wanted to get kind of your take on what you think some of the key differences are between some of those like larger productions compared to some of the more indie style games.
I would say the main difference is generally time. I think if I could encapsulate it in a single word, it's time. Like my work on, you know, Horizon, which, you know, fantastic game, fantastic studio behind it, you know, very well run and managed, but it was very much a case of, you know, I was very fortunate. I had worked with the audio director before, and I got a call from them going, Jay, we really need someone who can hammer out XYZ voices. Can I get you into London, you know, tomorrow and come in and do, I think I did sort of, it was either 4 or 6 hours in the booth for Horizon. Whereas the smaller kind of indie teams, I think because they are much more under their own steam, you know, their deadlines are their deadlines. There's no parent company that has a certain date to meet or a fiscal quarter that they have to meet. So indies tend to be, just by virtue of their size, more receptive, and they have more time for you to be able to feed back and go, oh yeah, okay, I see what you're doing with this character. Have you thought about doing maybe X? Or they are so receptive to you coming in with ideas, and you know, even in the booth itself, go, oh, what if we did this, or what if we did that? And I think it's easier as an indie for it all to come from a place of creative love, and I think that's nothing more than the necessities of scale. Is once you get up to the size of Gorilla, I'm not saying they don't do it with creative love, of course they do, but at some point in the scale, it tips into becoming a machine that is so big, the cogs have got to keep turning at a certain pace or the machine stops. So, you know, it is just that how much room for the passion is there in the project. There's the same amount of passion in AAA and in indie. It's just how much can we indulge and how much do we just need to get the thing done. So I love working with indies. You know, as you say, I've worked with both ends of the scale. I adore working with indies so very much. I think any actor worth their salt will tell you, all I really want to do is work on good stuff with good people. Like if someone comes to me with an amazing script, I don't care if it's from Naughty Dog or if it's from Jim and Bob, like the local indie game dev. I don't really care. I just give me a good character and away I go. Yeah, definitely that kind of space for play is more prevalent in the indies for sure.
Awesome. Eric, you want to go next, man?
So between your Twitch channel, I'm sorry, and the fact that you play a bunch of video game roles and things like this, it's a huge part of your life. And you talked about how you were in IT, but what specifically made you just say, hey, I'm leaving this and I'm going to be a voiceover actor now?
Oh God. Kind of, I guess two things. I reached a point in my IT career where, you know, I was very senior level in IT, working on big corporate customers, you know, like big banks or big corporate entities. And I was like, you know, there's not really much further for me to go in terms of my technical career. And at least not so much that I would want to sacrifice the time to, if that makes sense. And I was like, yeah, it's okay. It pays the bills. But I think if, you know, maybe for the same reason you guys have started this kind of, you know, the Chocobo Chase is like, when you've got a creative bone in the body, it will just not shut up until you like scratch the itch. So, you know, all throughout my IT career, I still did creative stuff. Obviously going into voiceover in 2009, there was, a crossover where I was doing VO part-time alongside the IT. But I was always doing creative stuff. I did musical theater when I was still doing IT as well. So I've kind of always been a creative, and I think I did what a lot of creatives do, which I got to the end of college and was like, I should go and get a job that pays me a monthly salary so that I can buy a house and have a mortgage and a wife and children. Yes, that will make me happy. So I vanished off down the corporate rabbit hole for 13 years and then went, fuck, I am morbidly depressed. I wonder why. But at the same time, I had also had at that time just my son had been born, and I was like, I kind of looked at my dad who had worked, excuse me, in the steel industry for 40 years, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want my son to see dad and be like, yeah, he kept a roof over our heads, but he was miserable and he worked in IT for 40 years. So I was like, nah, I've got to give this a shot. So that was the tipping point where I was just like, I've got to give it a go. And if I don't do it soon, I'm kind of not able to, because I don't believe you ever are too old, but I've got to do it at some point. So that's when I sort of started taking the initial steps. And there was one really I sound like Millie now. I'm not a believer in fate. But I just got to the point where I kind of saved enough and was having a studio built at my house with a view to quitting the IT job and going full-time VO. And literally, I was working in a summer house, a glorified shed in the garden while this studio was being built. And there was just this knock on the door, and I opened the door, and it was the studio builders. And they were like, Jay, that's it. We're pretty much done. The studio's ready. And 5 minutes ago, I had just got off a phone call where I'd been made redundant in my IT job. And wow. I was like, one door closes, another one opens. And that was the point at which I kind of went, well, I got a bit of redundancy money, enough to maybe last 2-3 months at the most. So I either go and get another IT job, or that's it now, hammer down, and try to spin VO up fast enough that it becomes my main income. And 7 years later, I haven't fallen over yet. So fingers crossed.
That's awesome. And props to you for following that inkling, because I know sometimes it is just easier to maintain that path. And that's, I'm definitely inspired, because that's not saying I'm going to quit my job. My wife is listening.
Quit your job.
Yeah. No, I actually do enjoy my job. So, but I absolutely love doing this, and that's absolutely why we do it. So we've seen a huge shift in terms of people in the gaming sphere actually start streaming, and even some who really weren't that big into streaming, whether it be like playing their characters that they've played. We've seen obviously a lot of the Baldur's Gate cast go ahead and do it. Obviously Millie and a lot of her castmates have gone ahead and started doing that. But what do you think has been kind of the biggest proponent for this shift, where we're starting to see so many people from this industry shift into streaming?
I have to give two answers to this. One is the really cynical answer, which I'll be honest, because it's one of the brutal truths of the industry. Acting doesn't pay enough. Acting doesn't pay enough with the threat of AI looming ever presently over voice actors. Like I coach voice acting as well, like people who want to get into it, and I look at come at it from a business side of stuff. And part of it for sure is actors right now are at massive risk. We are at massive risk of being an actor, certainly one that specializes in voice, will no longer be a viable career. It just won't. It's already, incredibly difficult to eke out a livable income, being a voice actor. So it absolutely makes sense that people diversify into different income streams, absolutely. And if you've got the skill, and it makes sense as well, a lot of actors will be natural entertainers as well. I'm not saying they all will, but it's certainly a medium that is very much suited to actors. There's a lot of transferable skills there. So I think that's part of it for sure. I'm not saying it's everybody's motivation, but some people will just go into streaming because all right, shit, I need to make some more money. I think a bigger part of it though, and I think this is certainly true when it comes to the Baldur's Gate cast, is a real strong desire to want to connect with the community. Like, both Millie and I play D&D. The video games communities can be great and they can be fucking awful. We all know that. But generally speaking, the Baldur's Gate community, and I think because of that D&D crossover, which generally speaking is a pretty good community as well, there's so much love for this game. Like, people want to get out and they want to play it and they want to talk to people who are playing it and they want to compare their runs. And like, as an actor, like, I'm not saying every actor is like this, and there are probably differing degrees of sincerity with it, but speaking from myself, I get so unbelievably humbled when anyone's like, oh, here's some fan art I drew of one of your characters. Like Millie and I are, playing, doing a co-op Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, and people have been dropping artwork of the characters we're RPing as, and every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I like sink into the chair of mortal embarrassment, because I'm like, you're drawing me. And I always tell my Twitch chat that they all have terrible taste for coming and watching me, and I'm like, I don't know why any of you are here. But there's something really rewarding. Like, I think as an actor, you have to understand the massive weight of privilege you have and responsibility when you are portraying a character that means something to people. And that's something really important to me that I very, very much believe in. Like, if I ever portray a character as beloved as the narrator or as beloved as Karlach, like, I then become an emissary for that character, and that character means something to people. It might be a character that helped them through depression. It might be a character that helped them through a really rough time in their life. And it is an amazing privilege to be able to meet someone at a con who's like, oh, your character really helped me get through something, and be able to flick that character's voice on and personality on and make that person's fucking day. Like, that's an amazing gift to have. And I think doing something like streaming is a great way to be able to give back to a community that has been phenomenal for the Baldur's Gate 3 cast. So lovely, so supportive. They're just amazing. So I think that's certainly the much bigger and more lovely part of it. Is just like, actually, we just want to talk to fans, for sure, 100%. Not me though. I'm the other way. I started streaming 4 years ago because I was like, I need some time to play games. And I'm like, maybe if I make it a work thing and I start streaming, because people don't believe me when I say this, but almost exclusively all the gaming I do, all the time I have for gaming, is when I stream. I don't play offline, not because I don't want to, but just because I don't have time. So I was like, if I start streaming, I can carve out some time. And also for me, just to add a sort of third reason, but this is much more specific to me, I guess, is I really enjoy going into streaming for my own creative endeavor. Like, being an actor is great, but we are very, very much, here's your box, here's your script, please be this person. Whereas something like streaming, that crossover between tech and creativity, for me, I was like, wait, I could do this. Oh yeah, and then I could have a weird character that I bring up that does this. And then, can I make an alien ship fly in and abduct me and fly out? Yeah, I could do that. Okay, great. So for me, it was like a huge creative outlet as well, of like, well, let's just see what we can do with this, I suppose.
That is amazing.
I think I think I've had moments like that when I tried my hand at streaming, where you're just playing like an RPG where there's no audio for like the characters' dialogue, so then you start assigning different voices to these characters as you're going through doing it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a really great creative outlet where you're beholden to nobody. Like, if you want to stream nothing but Dark Souls 1 while you're dressed up as a cat, fill your boots, and there'll probably be an audience for it as well, which is the greatest thing about Twitch is there's just something out there for everybody. I love it.
So you recently made your goal of making Twitch partner like a couple weeks ago, I believe. So that's a big accomplishment for anybody who's pursues streaming. How was it to make it to that milestone finally?
I have the weirdest story about this. I won't regale it here, but suffice it to say, it was at EGX with Millie and the cast of Baldur's Gate, and I think they just finished their panel, and we all went because I just tag along. I'm like, no, I'm with them. I got free chocolate buttons. I'm not complaining. So I kind of tagged along with them when they went just sort of into the corridors behind to do press interviews and stuff. And I went upstairs to the toilets. And as we all are these days, glued to our phones. And I'd only applied the day before. And as I was walking into the loo, I just saw the little preview of the email at the top. Like as I was going into the cubicle, there was like, you're invited to the Twitch partner program. Just like started cheering in the toilet, and there was somebody else in one of the cubicles who would have had no idea what was good. Just this random dude walks into the toilet and starts cheering. So that was fun. And then I sort of let out this big cheer and whoop. And then I came back out into the corridor, and there was just Karlach, Halsin, Shadowheart, all of the actors just lined up. I was like, I didn't hear that, did you? But it was an amazing feeling. You know, for me, it's been over 4 years in terms of like doing the grind and trying to get partner. It's hard to say because in one way it's really significant because you're like, it's a big accomplishment. It's what everyone strives for on Twitch. And then in other ways, it changes nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, cool. I've got some more emote slots now, and everybody can get encoding on my streams. Like nothing fundamentally changes, and yet it feels like everything changes. And it's been weird. I felt a bit overwhelmed the last week because mainly thanks, almost entirely thanks to Millie, is what has put my stream in the spotlight. And I think this is a really important thing to note. Like, yeah, if my streams weren't good, people wouldn't stay. Like, I'm trying to get better at being like, no, my streams are good. But also, discoverability is a huge, huge thing on Twitch. And I've been very fortunate that Millie and other members in the cast have kind of been able to put a bit of a spotlight on my channel to actually give it a chance to be seen amongst, everything on Twitch. So that's a huge part of it. And now comes like the pressure of, okay, well, I gotta maintain this and I gotta keep it going, and I kind of, I gotta get everything right now. But I'm trying just to kind of breathe and just go, no, I'm just gonna keep doing what I've been doing for the next few months and not change it, because I'm like, oh, okay, well, what if I introduce 3 new animations on the stream and all these new things? I'm like, no, just keep it the same, just enjoy it. But it's a huge feeling. It's an amazing feeling. And in one way, I feel really, I've talked about this previously, but I feel sorry for the Baldur's Gate cast in one way, because in one way it's great. Like they can come straight in with an audience, and in a few months they'll hit partner, right? Because they come in with an established audience. And I think as creatives, the way you respond to something like that happening determines a lot of which way your career is going to go. Because you can either come at it with the feeling of, oh, for sake, they're only getting partner because they're a well-known actor. They get it in 2 months. I've been slogging away for years. And you can go the kind of bitter route of it, which as someone who used to feel that way about a lot of things, like that takes you down nowhere useful. The flip side is like, okay, they bring in an audience. Who cares? Like, and the stuff they put out is good and people want to watch it. Why shouldn't they get Twitch partner? But equally as well, like I feel bad for them because they lose out on getting that feeling I had coming out of the toilet. When they get their partner badge, you'll be like, oh yeah, cool. But it won't be, I've been working for this for 4 years, overwhelming joy kind of thing. So, it's all swings and roundabouts. But yeah, suffice to say, I was very happy. I'm like, it is done. I can rest now.
So in the 4 years that took to get the Twitch partner, what are some of your favorite moments that you've had along that journey?
Oh God. There are so many. I think one of these, and I'm going to call out one of my viewers now. Fantastic guy called Frax the Multifarious on Twitch. He's been a long time member of my community. I used to have these rewards. I still do, in fact, where you could like turn my controller upside down or make me play with my eyes closed and that kind of stuff. And I was walking into the final boss of DS1, I want to say. And I was like, this is like 50th, 60th try. And I just walk in to fight this boss, and immediately the alert plays of like, it's topsy-turvy time, which turns my controller upside down. I'm just like, Frax, why? Why do you? So moments like that are always good. My Twitch anniversaries are always a highlight because it's the day that I get to just sit with my community all day for like usually about 12, 16 hours, and we play Sea of Thieves, and we play Phasmo and Jackbox, and those days are really, really fun. And I'm a huge Christmas nerd. Like, I love Christmas. So I always do Jay's Big Fat Christmas Stream of the Year, where like it's all sickly Christmas themed, and we play Christmas games and we sing Christmas songs, and I wear hideous Christmas jumpers. And you can't beat those kind of streams where you have communities as well. But I also, the flip side of it that is something that was amazing to me is getting to role play on Twitch. I did a lot of Red Dead role play, and again, for an actor, that's like, what do you mean I can play anybody? I'm like, yeah, you make up whatever character you want to play, and then you go off into the world and you play them. I'm like, wait, what? I can do that. And then, if you're with good role players, much like Round a Table in an RP server, holy shit, some of the scenes that got improv'd out, and one moment that sticks in my mind, if I can indulge myself for 30 seconds, is one of my characters was a grizzly old sheriff. He was called Obadiah Colt. He lived down here, and he had a wife, and he'd lost his wife years ago, right? But riding along in Red Dead, I fell off of the tiniest fucking little rock, and he got downed when he fell off his horse. But I was like, fuck it. So I rolled for it, and we actually gave him amnesia, and I decided I'm gonna make this really bad. And I had him forget that his wife had died, and he kind of came out of like the injury on the horse, and he was just like, where's Mara? I need my damn wife. And like, he was like, I got to get to the train. I need to get home. I need to find Mara. And then having one of the other role players who I'd been role playing with for a year kind of like force her to go through this scene where she's like, no, Obi, like, your wife's dead. And him have to relive all those emotions, is like, and that was just like, this is entirely improv. Nobody's writing this stuff, and it just happens. And like, when you get moments like that of online RP, it's like, this is as an actor, it's like, this is just a dream, man. It's so good.
It is so good. So we do have 2 more questions. I know that we're past our 30-point time or 30-minute time. Just wanted to make sure that you're still okay.
Yeah, 3 hours. Let's go.
All right, Eric, following up with our second to last question.
So you've talked about your partner Millie quite a bit so far on the pod. And you share quite a few roles together. Did y'all meet doing voiceover work, or did y'all meet prior to this?
So yeah, we met. I know Millie mentioned it briefly, but we had the same voice coach, the fantastic Nancy Wolfson, over in Los Angeles. And Nancy was coming over to the UK, and she was like, hey, sort of previous students of mine, I think there was only about 7 or 8 of us that she invited for just a dinner in London while she was in town. So and Millie mentioned this. Yeah, both of us almost didn't go. So like, I hadn't even done my hair. I was like, oh, okay, fine, I'll go to London. So I met Millie at that dinner. and we got at that point. I had done some games. I'm trying to think. This was 2015, so I've done some games by that point. And I kind of got talking to Millie about motion capture, which I'd been doing as well, and was like, if you want to get into games, you got a great face, but not like in the, hey, you got a great face. In the, your face moves weird. Don't let people point a camera at it. So yeah, she went off and did motion capture training and stuff, and then I'm pretty sure, Millie's first title was with me. It was a game called The Turing Test. I played two characters who were brothers. One of whom was her character's boss, and the other one was her lover. And I remember she tells this story much better than I, but how she'd been kind of doing all these emotional scenes, not with me, but against the script. She was like, "Oh, I need to go and find out who plays this other guy." By this point we were friends. And so she was like, "Oh, who's playing Chris?" I forget what the surname was, but Turing Test brothers. And she was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Jay!" I was like, "Hi!" And yeah, I think since then, not really through planning. I think we've done about 20 titles together now. I think there's 20 titles where we've crossed paths in some way. Yeah.
Have y'all ever had to go into the studio together, just be like, "Oh shit, I've got work," and she's like, "Oh yeah, me too, let's go."
Yes, and I don't remember if Millie shared this story, so I'm going to, because it's a great story. Divinity Original Sin 2. It was really close to release, and we both got called in for a session. I don't know if we were there together or if we just spotted each other in the lobby and were like, "Oh, hey." But I think she was in, and then I turned up because I was in straight after her. And she was like, "Oh, I've got to wait for my train or whatever. I'll sit outside the booth and just hang out while Jay has his session." Except this session was one where I recorded my most notable role in Divinity Original Sin 2, which is that of the male escort sex worker of Zorat, who the player can go and have fun times with. Spoilers, then I rob you blind the next morning. So it was all this sort of like, "Hi, how are you?" So it was all this sort of very velvety voiced nonsense, and all very sexual. And Millie, we're not together at this point. I'm just her friend, and she sat, in the booth like, "Oh, this is a new feeling. It's weird and uncomfortable." So yes, we have crossed paths. It's very, very rare that actors will actually be in a booth together. More's the pity, to be honest. But we've certainly crossed paths at games. Yeah, I don't think we've ever actually been in a scene at the same time. No, I tell a lie. We were working on a motion capture project together that didn't eventually end up going anywhere. But we did get to do some scenes in the volume together, actually, which was really nice. We went down to Pinewood and did some scenes together, and that was really, really cool. Yeah.
Is that the one in your mocap promo video? Because I did see Amelia in that on your website.
Yeah. So I have a female voices section on my website, in case I'm not, I'm good, but I'm not that good. And yeah, Millie's on there, and yeah, so it's not the ones from my website. There was no footage. Well, there is footage of the scenes Millie and I did together, but none that will see the light of day, sadly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I love motion capture work. It's a lot of good fun.
That's actually really cool. That's one thing I did notice on your website, and I wanted to shout out, is that you had the section for female voice actors, and there was a few of them on there that people could have access to if they had anything. So you're trying to help out others as well. So that was very nice.
Yeah. I mean, I think and again, when I talk to new voice actors, I try to impress this upon them. Like, it's easy to be protective of your work and of your opportunities. And yeah, to some extent, you got to be careful who you let into your inner circle, because some people are just out there to grab any opportunity they can and screw over anybody they can. But in general, I'm a high tide raises all boats kind of guy. And when I talk to young actors and new actors, it's like, look, Dude, my grizzled American voice is going to be the same as your grizzled American voice, okay? That's not the thing that's going to separate us in the booth, right? It's how we interpret the character, our take on the character, and the performance that we end up giving. So what difference does it make if I help that actor get an audition as well, you know? We're not selling the same things. I just want the best person to get the role possible. And like I say, it kind of feeds into that. If you go into this industry with an attitude of being bitter and protective and out for yourself, it doesn't help anybody, and it certainly doesn't help you, because you end up kind of isolated and like, oh, I'm all alone. Whereas I'm just like, fuck it, we'll say yes to everything, get everybody involved, let's go. Yeah, much more fun.
I think it definitely helps because, like, in an industry like this, it's kind of like who you know, right? So if you're good to work with, like people love you, then that helps just propel you forward, because someone will reference you to another company and be like, hey, this person might be good for this.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's how I got Frostpunk, actually. Was another fantastic actor called Kezia Burrows, who I had worked with on a mocap shoot. It wasn't a shoot. It was a part of my mocap training. She was one of the instructors. And I can't remember whether she'd done some work with 11-bit or just knew them. But she was like, oh, you're looking for a male voice? Have a chat to Jay. Because she'd seen me work in the volume. She'd seen me like, is he a dick or not? And I was like, yeah, okay, you need a male voice. Here's somebody that I know. So yeah, very much so. You know, the Will Wheaton rule. Just don't be a dick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dash coming in with our final question.
So D&D is the hot topic with Baldur's Gate 3 right now, and with you having credits in Pathfinder and Divinity Original Sin 2, which are pretty close to D&D also, I'm going to ask you what your ideal adventurer race/class combo would be. And it could be outside the bounds of D&D limitations too.
Oh no. Oh no, I thought this was going to be a much easier question. My immediate instinct is I would like to play in fact, what I'm kind of playing my Dark Urge playthrough as, which is a drow or a dark elf, sorry, like necrosis based wizard sorcerer, like just something sick. And like, I like this. I've just gone, choose love and invite everybody in. And like, no, I want to play a sick, twisted wizard who will just suspend you in the air and pull your limbs off one by one. Look, I got to have balance, gang. Okay. I need some balance in my life. But yeah, like I'm role play. I always try and just play something that's, I don't know, like to my mind, like the whole idea of role play is to do a bunch of stuff that you can't do in real life. Like, do I want to play a cis het white dude in my D&D? If you do, great. But I play that when I wake up in the morning. So, like, don't get me wrong. Like Lucius Alabaster, who I'm playing with Millie, he is the cissest, hetest, whitest, most entitled, privileged prick you could imagine. And that's great. He's a fun character to play. But I'm also like, okay, but what am I not? And I'm not a wizard, so let's play a wizard. Am I an elf? No, let's be an elf as well. So yeah, I kind of really like exploring what I'm not. And I find dark psychology much more interesting to play with than sort of goody two virtuous psychology. I find the psychology of psychopaths infinitely more interesting of a playground. So yeah, like just a dark wizard, elf, messed up kind of character, which I've never actually played in D&D.
Don't think I've ever could go through with like evil characters myself. It's like it's too awesome. I've never done like a full Mass Effect trilogy playthrough for Renegade because it just feels so bad. I'm like,
it's surprisingly easy. I keep saying though, I've not really had much had a chance to play it, but if any game writer out there wants to write me just a pure psycho, like I always think of BioShock and I forget the character's name now because of flu. But that kind of vaudevillian showman, where with a piano made of teeth, who will just like play you a song as he's stabbing you to death and sing a merry ditty and not kind of think two things about it. Like that kind of role is like, oh yeah, that'd do nicely. Yes, please.
Should have given you like a chaos role in Warhammer.
Yeah,
that'd be good. Yeah. Although the Warhammer voices, holy hell, they're the only ones that have wrecked my throat. Like for like the Nurgle actually was really fun to voice. The Skaven, I had a very bruised larynx the next day.
Yeah, that's what we got.
You were Skaven? That's awesome.
Yeah, Skaven Priest in Warhammer 2, and then the Nurgle Lord in Warhammer 3.
Yeah, we got that from Scott Joseph. I think he said he did like
ogres.
He said he did like a Berserker of Crone too, I think.
Yeah, and anything that's like tight is just awful. Whereas the Nurgle was just like chug a bunch of water so your mouth was really wet, and then just yeah, really easy.
Oh, amazing.
Well, Jay, I speak for all three of us when I say this has been so much fun. We absolutely appreciate you taking the time to speak with us and us getting to learn more about your streaming career and your acting career and your IT career. Honestly, I mean, this has been so cool. We also wanted to give you a chance to kind of shout out anything you've been working on, your Twitch channel, really anything that you'd kind of like our listeners to know more about.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Games wise, I can't say a thing. But there will be some out next year that I am currently recording. So that'll be cool. But yeah, I mean, these days, if you want to come and hang out, twitch.tv/Jay Britton's where I'm at. I think I'm streaming tomorrow more of our half orc monk playthrough of my character Orctimus Prime. Chat named him. It's not my fault. Okay. But yeah, follow me. Follow obviously the wonderful Amelia Tyler on Twitch as well for our co-stream playthroughs. But yeah, follow all the cast, especially Sam Bayard and Jennifer English as well, because they're all, and Devra as well. Given how like new they are to the streaming world, go and give them all the love in the world because they deserve it. And this has been a wild time for them as well. So yeah, by all means, come across and hang out with me. But spread the love.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to go ahead and link your channel as well when we go ahead and launch the episode. And with that, I think that we'll call this the end of the show. And thanks everybody for listening. We definitely appreciate you.
Have a good one.
Yep. Thank y'all so much.